G'day guys and gal. I can comfortably say that out of everything that I've experienced in my reasonably short life, intercourse is by far my favorite thing. Honestly, whenever I get down or upset, I literally think to myself, damn, could really go for a root right now. A satisfied person is a happy person. The only thing more prevalent than death and war in Warhammer 40k is sex. That's not a joke. Every person that dies requires multiple sessions of sex to replace. If 1 trillion people die in one day, it takes about 10 trillion bangs to replace them. But with such insane biological diversity between the different races and factions in 40k, that method of reproduction varies greatly, from good old-fashioned missionary all the way to spreading fungal spores. Before we get started, the newest and personally my favorite major mini to date is live. Ra, the Golden Sun. Yes, he's based off who you think he is, and yes, his name is a reference to that scene. If you know, you know. Wielding dual swords, standing tall, and ready to wreck some tits, Ra would make the perfect Blade Champion proxy, or perhaps an Emperor's Children champion. I've been working on this guy for months, constantly going back and forth, fixing and tweaking until I got him perfect, so it feels so good to finally launch him. On top of that, all major minis now come with bases, either custom printed ones or the standard GW size ones. So for example, all Ra models come with a 40mm base. The $10,000 painting competition is also still going with over a month left, and we've had some awesome entries, whether it be Leroy striking Lord of the Night, Northster's Chaplain, which is wow, look at that sword. Then there is the Mad Lad Mark, who did an amazing job painting the big-ass King Orc. There is still plenty of time to order, receive your model, and paint for the comp. There are multiple cash prizes, so just because you might not be the best painter doesn't mean you aren't in the running. And if minis aren't your thing, the Majorkill Christmas merch is now live. Dice, desk pads, and a lot more goodies are available by themselves or in a pack, including this hat, which, let's be honest, pretty awesome. Today we'll go over each race and faction to determine how they reproduce. It might seem silly, but without all this reproduction going on, there would be no hectic galactic warfare. Let's get into it. Starting us off with how the Imperium reproduces. Yes, I know it seems like a waste of time, as we all know that a bit of PP in the vagin gets the job done. Well, at least some of you know that at least. But in 40k, it's just not that straightforward. Yes, for the everyday Imperial citizen, vaginal penetration equals reproduction. However, it is quite different for the sub-factions or even rich Imperial citizens. For example, an affluent lesbian couple were able to fuse their DNA and artificially create a child with no male or fatherly input, so their child was equally theirs. The Mechanicus vat grows its people artificially, and then determines their fate based on their talent and potential. The best will go on to become tech priests and the like, whilst the trash will get turned into servitors. As Space Marines and Custodians are edited after birth and cannot or will not reproduce, they come from good old-fashioned fucking. Although it is law-friendly for Sisters of Battle to get some dick here and there, they aren't known to replenish their numbers via reproduction, more so choosing young devout girls, often orphans, to join their ranks. We don't know shit about how the Sisters of Silence reproduce, since non-blanks find them repulsive and would refuse to fuck them, and it's an order made entirely of females, they more so recruit from finding potent blank women rather than any known breeding program. Overall, pretty standard stuff. The Imperium does make use of cloning in some key areas. For example, the Death Corps of Krieg, everyone's favourite machistic war heroes, are all confirmed to be identical clones. This is why they're able to support such massive regiment numbers despite their obscene casualty rate and inhospitable world. I am kinda bummed though that my theory of the citizens of Krieg just being in one constant fuck-off massive orgy isn't correct, but them all being clones is definitely a lot more lore-friendly. What about the Elder? After all, if I could choose anyone to reproduce with, it would be them, despite the fact that the effort would likely result in me getting massacred by their powerful thigh and hip motion. The Elder still have intercourse. I mean, after all, they spawned a fetish sex god, so they must know a thing or two about it. For the craft welders, they basically need to have multiple spread out sessions of sex, each root depositing more DNA of the father into the mother, until eventually enough sex has occurred for the child to be born. This process takes a decent amount of time, which explains the low birth rate amongst the craft worlds. The Dark Elder have two methods. Firstly, yes, they can do the slow and steady natural birth, or they just vat grow more Dark Elder. Most of Dark Elder society is vat grown, with natural births considered to be a symbol of status, a massive flex. After all, if a Dark Elder woman feels safe enough to put herself in a vulnerable position by getting pregnant, then she must have some serious wealth and influence. As the Exodites have the same biology as the other Elder, they too would just need to do the marathon, not a sprint method of banging. This does beg the question though, can the Elder have multiple genetic fathers? If a male Elder swaps out for another during the impregnation process and deposits his own DNA, will the child still be viable, or is that a miscarriage speedrun? Well, yeah. Elder children can have multiple fathers. This is uncommon for Craftworld and Exodite Elder, who are known to have clean mono relationships, but knowing the Dark Elder, it'd probably be rare for a child to only have one father. As for the Harlequins, it honestly doesn't seem like they reproduce like the other Elder. They are too busy to get pregnant, instead relying on the call of the Laughing God to entice various disillusioned Elder into entering the webway and joining the dance. The Tau get down and dirty, just like the other humanoid races. However, they are only allowed to breed with members of the same caste, so Fire Warriors can only fuck Fire Warriors, Water with Water, etc. and so on. Officially, this is to maintain purity of purpose within the castes, easily defining the role of each Tau citizen. However, unofficially, it's just another method of control imposed by the Ethereals. The Farside Enclaves have done away with this rule, meaning any Tau in their empire can bang whoever they want. In practice, most Tau prefer members of their own caste. The Orcs don't have dicks, pussies, or gender. They are extremely progressive. Hence, they cannot reproduce via any form of intercourse, which, let's be honest, it's definitely a good thing. Imagine how grimdark 40k would be if the Orcs pillaged and raped their way through Imperial worlds. No, Orcs instead spread spores whenever their testosterone flares, during a battle, during a fight, during the gathering of a war. All these actions trigger spore production. The quality of the Orcs that come from the spores depend on where they are released. As they are fungal spores, they prefer humid, shady weather over something like a desert. They also thrive in corpses. It's very common for an Orc to be killed, only for its own dead body to become a nutrient-rich breeding ground for its spores to grow and mature into Orcs. This is why a war against the Orcs isn't over until the corpses are torched. It's very common for Orc incursions to be beaten, and then the planet needs to deal with Orc pests for the next few hundred years. An easy one now, the Necrons. How do these cockless, soulless robots reproduce? Well, that's the neat part. They don't. By performing the biotransference, the Necrons gave up their ability to reproduce, instead relying on the fact that they were now immortal and nearly invulnerable to maintain their numbers. This does mean that the Empire is slowly but steadily dying. Every Necron that is destroyed cannot be replaced. If the Necrons figure out how to return to blood and flesh bodies, then it'll be a different story. But for now, the Necrons haven't created a new Necron in over 60 million years. On the other end of the spectrum, the Tyranids breed like motherfuckers. They don't have reproductive organs or follow any standard breeding pattern. More so, they just create each Tyranid they need in breeding pools. Honestly, despite how fleshy and biological Tyranids look, seeing them as robots and not animals makes them a lot more understandable. They make new Tyranids like we make robots. Their devouring of biomatter is like us digging up oil. Even the hive mind could just be seen as one big AI, controlling his robots via their synapse or Wi-Fi extender Tyranids. But yeah, despite seeming like a great subject for a tentacle hentai video, the Tyranids are very emotionless and efficient with their reproduction. Taking a leaf out of their parents' book, the gene stealers also rapidly reproduce. Once a gene stealer cult is able to form on a planet, the goal is to infect as much of the planet as possible with their DNA. Hence, gene stealers are busy as fuck, banging everyone and poking holes in their own condoms. The Leagues of Votan are the latest 40k faction, and they deserve recognition on these faction videos I do. Every member of the Leagues are actually clones, but not in the conventional sense. Like, there are no identical kin out there. Basically, they have these large gene pools stored, and then they mix and match genes to artificially create new squats. It's a step above just vat growing people, as they are cloning DNA to create life. This process also allows the clones to have distinct souls, which has been an issue with cloning in the past. However, this doesn't mean the Leagues of Votan can't reproduce naturally. They just don't. Well, at least the ones a part of the Leagues don't. The squats on Necromunda don't have access to an ancestor core nor the cloning technology, so they have to stick it in to keep their numbers up. How about Chaos and Demons? How do they reproduce? Well, despite some Slaaneshi demons looking very reproducible, all demons are energy and not biology. They cannot give birth or create new demons. only their patron gods can do that. In order to make more demons, a chaos god will shed shards of itself with the goal of making those demons spread its influence, give it more power, and then allow it to shed more demon shards. The cycle continues to repeat. For the followers of chaos, it's just a lot of sex and not many condoms. If you're wondering, the answer is yes. Chaos cults are rife with STDs. No, that isn't written in the law and it doesn't have to be for it to be true. Not just any STDs though, fucking warp STDs. I wouldn't be surprised if their cocks had mutated into tentacles or fallen off at this point. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up Ra, the Golden Sun, or this funny little hat. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more sexual content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.